webinar on block storage in AWS EBS. I'm Ankita from Springpeople, India's largest enterprise training provider, and it's an absolute pleasure to be your moderator for this session. Today, we'll take a closer look at the essentials of Amazon EBS, what it offers, when to use it, how it differs from Instance Store, and how you can easily create and manage volumes and snapshots. Whether you work with AWS every day or you're just getting started, this session will give you clear, practical insights you can apply right away. We are also delighted to have with us Ms. Seema Dixit, who brings over 2 decades of industry experience and more than 18 years in corporate and professional training. She specializes in AWS cloud computing, information security, cybersecurity, and network infrastructure security. And as an AWS authorized instructor, she holds top certifications including AWS Solutions Architect Professional, AWS Security Specialty, and CEH. She has trained over 5,000 professionals and worked with leading organizations like EY, Sony, HCL, Genpact, and Publicis Sapient. Her sessions are known for being practical, engaging, and rooted in real world experience, which is exactly why we are excited to learn from her today. Now, before we get started, just a quick note that you're welcome to type in your questions in the question box at any point during the session. Ms. Sima will be addressing them during the Q&A toward the end. And with that, let's begin. Over to you, Ms. Seema Dixit.
Thank you so much, Ankita. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope my screen is visible and audible clearly. So let us start with today's session. As Ankita mentioned, today's topic is elastic block storage. So basically, we are going to see what are the types of storages offered by AWS, and we are going to focus on elastic block storage especially. Okay, let us start. These are the objectives of today's session. Initially, I will introduce you to the different options of storage in AWS. Then I will introduce you to elastic block storage. We will have a quick glance on instance store. What exactly the instance store is? Basically, it is one of the type of block storage provided by AWS. Our focus will be definitely on elastic block storage, but definitely I will introduce you to instance store as well. We are going to see features and use cases related to this storage. And then I will talk about the snapshot, which is basically the backup, how to take a backup of your storage, right? And I will definitely going to demonstrate to you everything. Okay, so how to create the volumes, how to attach the volume, how to take the snapshot, and so forth. Let us start. So these are the 3 storage options which are available in AWS: block storage, file storage, as well as object storage. So our focus will be on block storage. So what exactly the block storage is? So if you have used hard disk, and I'm pretty sure that everybody has used hard disk so far, right? Not only hard disk, your pen drive, your USB hard disks, these are the examples of block storages. So folks, what happens beneath the scene when we store our data onto your hard disk, which is the example of block storage? You know, the file, let us say you are having a very big file and now you want to save it on your hard disk. Usually we do this, right? We just modify the content, we go to the file option, and then we click on the save option. So when we click on the save option, okay, the file will get chopped in equal pieces of data, and those equal pieces are known as blocks. So as you can see on my screen, the small blocks, right? So just imagine that this is your big file that you are supposed to save on your hard disk. So beneath the scene, the file will get chunked into these equal pieces, and these are known as blocks. And folks, now these blocks get stored on different tracks and sectors of your hard disk. So every block will be having a memory address, right? So when we open the file, it will get actually created in a single glance. We are able to see that file. Okay, so all the pieces will be rearranged, and then we see that file. So So folks, this is the basic working of the block storage. So how the block storages works. Okay. Now, these three options, which I have already elaborated on the first slide, block storage, file storage, and object storage. Definitely our main intention is block storage here, but let us quickly see what are these file storage and object storage as well with a simple analogy. Object storage. Now, just as I told you, if I want to compare this block storage, right? So hard disk is one of the example I have given. Pen drive, especially I have given this example pen drive or USB hard disk because of some reason, okay? Because we are going to relate it when we are going to perform the demonstration, right? Object storage, what is the analogy? Google Drive, right? So everybody must have used Google Drive. So the Google Drive is the example of object storage. What we do in Google Drive, we cannot attach the Google Drive directly as an option of the hard disk to your computer, right? We just create the files on our laptop or maybe desktop, and then we upload those files in the drive, right? So that is how the object storage works. Now, what is this file storage? Now, file storage is a centralized storage. Beneath the scene, it is again a block storage only, okay? But now we are having operating system over here, file storage. We are having a centralized storage, and thousands of computers maybe can concurrently access this type of storage. Okay, so file server, okay, maybe you are aware of the file server things. So file server is the best example of file storage, centralized storage, where thousands of computers can concurrently attach to it or connect to it and access the data, right? So this is the file storage and object storage. And yes, we are going to focus on this block storage today. Okay, the service which is provided by AWS for this for this block storage type is elastic block storage. So EBS is the short form of elastic block storage. Okay, file storage and object storage. So what are the services provided by AWS? Although we are not going in detail of that, but yes, a file storage, we are having two options: elastic file system, which is known as EFS for short, and FSX, which stands for file system extended. In object storage category, we are again having two storage options. One is very popular, which is known as simple storage service, known as Amazon S3 and Amazon S3 Glacier, which is used for archival storage. Okay, folks, now let us focus on our topic, block storage. Okay, now this is the EC2 instance in my cloud maybe. Okay, now what is this EC2 instance? It is nothing but a virtual machine. Okay, it is my virtual machine which I have created in my AWS cloud. Now, when we create our virtual machine, definitely it will need storage, right? The hard disk type of thing. So it will need hard disk. So now we are having two options for hard disk in AWS. One is mandatory. The primary one which we can see here, it is the mandatory one, and it will come up when you launch your EC2 instance. Okay, so let us say I have launched my EC2 instance. So by default, it is going to come up with the primary storage. And now this primary storage is known as root volume. Okay, folks, this is known as root volume. What is the comparison? Just assume it like a C drive of your Windows machine. So what type of data do we keep in our C drive? Definitely it is operating system file, right? So we usually keep our operating system file in the C drive. So in AWS, that is equivalent to the AMI. Okay, AMI, Amazon Machine Image, which is the template of your operating system. So let us say I'm running Linux operating system on my virtual machine. So all the files related to this Linux operating system in form of AMI will be stored on the root volume. As I told you, the comparison is C drive, right? So as I told you, we rarely store our user created data there, right? Usually C drive just hold the operating system or let us say the programs file related data. Then what about my user created data? Okay, what about my files and folders that I want to keep onto this virtual machine? Okay, so where I'm going to keep those files and folders, that is known as the user created data, right? So there comes another type of volume, and that is known as data volume. Okay, so this is the data volume. Comparison, let us compare it with your D drive or maybe E drive or whatever. Okay, so we can have multiple number of drives depending on the size of your hard disk, right? So D drive, E drive, F drive, whatever you call it, right? So it is going to hold the user created data. Okay, so folks, this will come up by default. Okay, so when you launch the EC2 instance, this root volume will come there by default. But this data volume, you need to select it. Okay, so if you need the data volume, then you are going to create the data volume, and now you are going to attach these volumes to your EC2 instance. So again, this will come by default attached. Okay, we will not do anything with the primary volume because it is going to come by default. But what if I have created this data volume? And there comes the analogy of the pen drive or USB hard disk. Now, folks, what is our basic understanding? That if it is my laptop, let us say, right? So my hard disk has to be present inside my laptop, right? So it is inside my laptop, the hard disk storage. But here, what is the difference in AWS? This storage is external. Okay, so now you can compare it with a USB hard disk or maybe your pen drive, right? So this is the external storage, and it is also known as network attached storage. It is totally different from your EC2 instance. Okay, so just like if let us say I have attached the pen drive to my computer, right? Let us say my laptop, and if let us say I have shut down or maybe stopped my laptop, let us say, okay, nothing is going to happen with my data which is being kept in the pen drive, right? So the data will remain intact there. Nothing will happen. It is simply going to get detached from this instance, right? So the same thing is happening with EC2 as well. Okay, so we can attach one or more elastic block storage volume to a single EC2 instance. Okay, now it totally depends what is the type of the instance you are using, right? So if the instance type is, let us say, very large type of instance, then you can attach lots of volumes simultaneously to that EC2 instances, right? A single instance can have multiple volumes attached to it. Okay, so we can attach one or more elastic block storage volume to a single EC2 instance. And not only that, we can move those volumes as needed. Now, let me just quickly try to explain this. Okay, just give me. Okay, now let us say, okay, this is, I will try to explain it using my whiteboard. Now, folks, let us say this is my EC2 instance. Okay, this is my EC2 instance, and as I told you, by default, it is going to come up with the primary volume, which is the root volume, which is going to hold the operating system file, right? But now I'm going to focus on this data volume, which is the external storage, which is we are going to create and attach to this EC2 instance. Now let us say I have created some files and folders onto this volume. Okay, so if I have created some files on folders, and let us say there is one more EC2 instance here. Now what I want to transfer the data which is being kept on this data volume to this newly created instance. So what is the process? It is very simple. You simply detach the volume from the first instance and you can attach it to another instance. Okay, so that is a good analogy, right? That is why I have compared it with the pen drive or USB hard disk, right? So now let us take an example. Is it possible that a single pen drive or single USB hard disk can simultaneously be attached to multiple laptops or multiple computers? Obviously, no, right? We cannot have that. So similarly, by default, we cannot have the elastic block storage volume which get attached simultaneously to multiple instances. Okay, but now AWS is coming up with a new option which is known as multi-attach. Okay, I will just talk about it later on. But now, yes, it is possible that a single elastic block storage volume can simultaneously be attached to multiple instances. But there are lots of limitations. What type of instance you are using, right? So there are lots of limitations on that. But yes, now it is possible and it is known as multi-attach. Back to my presentation. So I hope now this screen is very much clear to you. So yes. Okay. As I told you, it is network attached storage. It is not inside my EC2 instance, right? Like the laptop or the desktop. The storage is external, and that's why it is known as network attached storage. It is persistent block storage. Now, what do you mean by persistent storage? Okay, now persistent storage is something like that. even if this EC2 instance is terminated or deleted, okay, deleted altogether, so nothing will happen to my data which has been kept in this elastic block storage volume. And that's why these are known as persistent block storage. Unless and until you decide that you want to delete that volume, nothing will happen to your storage. Okay. Now, as I already told you, there are two types of volume supported, boot and data volume. And I think that concept is clear now. Boot is just going to hold the operating system files, and data volume is going to hold the user created data and multi-attach. Okay. Now, this is a very new concept provided by AWS. Now, the elastic block storage volumes are capable of getting attached to simultaneously to multiple EC2 instances as well. But as I told you, there are certain limitations, right? So what are the types of the instances, right? So depending on that, we can use that feature. Okay. Now, when we talk about this elastic block storage volume, there are two types. Solid state drive, that is known as SSD, and hard disk drive. And I'm pretty sure that you are very much aware of this term SSD. So let us say you have used the SSD drive. So folks, what is happening nowadays in your laptops, right? So if you want to boot your system quickly, okay, so SSD drives are used. So let us say you have not used SSD drive and the normal HDD drive, right? So it takes a lot of time to boot your operating system, to start your laptop. But if you are using SSD, it is very quick. And I'm pretty sure nowadays, most of the laptops are using solid state drives only, right? So because they are so quick, so fast, these are optimized for transactional type of workloads that needs a frequent read-write operation. Now, again, these SSD drives are of two types: general purpose SSD and provisioned IOPS SSD. So general purpose SSD are providing you just a optimized IOPS only. Okay, but if let us say you are trying to, or you are planning to run some workloads which need good speed, that is input output operations per second. Okay, you want that IOPS to be very, very high, then go for provisioned IOPS. Okay, so here you can actually mention what type of input output operations per second you need for your workload. Okay, so general purpose SSD and provisioned IOPS SSD are two types of the let us say volumes which are available in the solid state drive category. And hard disk drive. So here we are having two options once again: cold HDD, which is actually known as SC1. Sorry, cold HDD, which is known as ST1. Okay, that is one of the option. And there is one more which is known as throughput optimized, which is known as SC1. So basically, it will be using the traditional type of hard disk beneath the scene, which is having that magnetic components or maybe the moving parts. Okay, and that's why these type of hard disks are a little bit slow. They are having the moving parts inside it, in contrast to SSD. SSDs are just using the integrated circuitry, right? So that's why they are very fast. But yes, these are very, very good option for throughput optimized. Okay, you want I will say good bandwidth type of thing. Okay, you want to transfer huge amount of data per second, right? So if you need huge throughput, then go for throughput optimized type of HDD. Okay, these are the two categories. And these are the options once again have elaborated onto this slide. So if you use SSD type of volumes, we are having options GP2, GP3. This is general purpose. Okay, so if you look over here, GP2 and GP3, these are general purpose, and provisioned IOPS, IO1 and IO2. Okay, and for HDD backed volumes, we are having two options once again: a cold drive and as well as the throughput optimized, which is ST1 as well as SC1. Okay, depending upon your requirement and what type of application you are planning to run, right? And that depending on that, you are going to select whether you are going to go for SSD or whether you are going to go for HDD. But nowadays, okay, the latest workloads, okay, so they suits very well with the SSD type of hard disk. Cost wise, yes, if cost is a big concern for you, okay, so then let me tell you, SSD backed volumes are costlier. Okay, if you compare it with the HDD backed volumes, SSD will prove to be very costly. So if you want a cost effective solution, okay, and in that you can just compromise with the speed, I will say, then HDD backed volumes are the good solution for you. Okay, so in the last couple of slides, I have talked about IOPS and throughput. Okay, so what exactly this IOPS is? IOPS is a count of the read-write operations per second, and throughput is the actual measurement. Let me give a simple analogy to understand this concept. Okay, so now let us say, let us take example of the highway. Okay, freeway, highway, something like that. So now let us say the highway is very broad, okay, and it is having a capacity, or let us say it is having 6 lanes, okay. So 6 vehicles can simultaneously go at once through that road. So this is the capacity of that road, right? This is the capacity of that road. So that is actually known as throughput. Okay, so that is actually the throughput example. Then what is IOPS? What is IOPS? Input output operations per second. Now let us say I'm just looking at this part of this road. So how many vehicles are transferring or getting transferred from this part per second? Okay, so that is the IOPS. So let us say these are hundreds or 200s, right? So at per second, how many vehicles are passing through that part, right? So that is the IOPS. So if you compare it with the hard disk scenario now let me just go back to the traditional way. Okay, let us just forget about the cloud for the time being. Now let us say this is my computer, and when we open the file, right, now this is my hard disk, this is the hard disk, this is the hard disk. So when we save the file will get saved in the hard disk, right? So when you open it will come in your RAM, right? It will come in your RAM. So when we modify the file, we change the contents inside the RAM, and when we save it is going to save in the hard disk. So that is the IOPS. What is the speed? What are the reads write operations which are happening per second, right? And how huge data can be getting stored in my hard disk. So that is the example, or maybe the analogy of the throughput as well as the IOPS. Okay, now before I'm going to give you demonstration, as I told you, I will be giving you a quick example of the instance store as well. Now, what is this instance store? To understand the instance store, let me just quickly tell you how the architecture in AWS data centers is. Okay, so when we launch our EC2 instances, which are nothing but the virtual machines in AWS cloud, beneath the scene, these virtual machines will be kept in the data centers. Okay, and now those data centers will be having thousands of physical servers inside it. Thousands of physical servers, 50,000 to 80,000 physical server in a single data center. Now let us take example of a single server. Now let us say this is a physical server, right? So that physical server will be having a hypervisor installed on it, the virtualization application or software, right? Using the hypervisor, we can create our virtual machines. So my virtual machines will sit on top of the physical server. This physical server is being kept in the data center of AWS. Okay, folks. So this is how we launch our EC2 instances. Beneath the scene, those EC2 instances will always be kept on the physical server. We do not have any access to this physical server. Okay. Now, when I have launched this EC2 instance, what about the storage? Okay, what about the storage? So there are two types of storage as we have seen. One is elastic block storage, which is the external storage, right? So USB hard disk or pen drive, something like that. So network attached storage that can be attached externally to this EC2 instance. Okay, elastic block storage. But now let me talk about the instance store first. Okay, because we are not going to have any demonstration on the instance store. The idea is just to give you what exactly that instance store is. So now, if I opt for instance store instead of using this elastic block storage, okay, I don't want this elastic block store, then what is another option? That is instance store. Now, in this instance store, folks, this virtual machine is going to use the storage space from the same physical server on top of which it is being created. Okay, so in short, this storage will be local to this EC2 instance, right? This storage is not the network attached storage like this elastic block storage now. It is the local storage. Okay, so being the local storage, definitely there are multiple advantages. And the biggest advantage is the IOPS once again. Okay, so you will get a good IOPS speed because the storage is local. If you are planning to save your file onto the hard disk, and because the storage is local, that will be very quick. So IOPS, you are getting good speed over instance store. Okay, but that is one advantage. But what is the drawback? Let me talk about the drawback as well. Okay, before that, let us go to the presentation. Okay, now this is the example. This instance store is known as ephemeral storage. It is not persistent storage now. Now, what do you mean by persistent storage? The data will persist even if the EC2 instance gets deleted or terminated, right? But in ephemeral storage, it is not going to happen. Okay, so basically, it is the direct attached storage in contrast to the network attached storage, right? So definitely low latency will be there because it is local, and yes, not to mention high IOPS and throughput. These are the biggest advantages provided by instance store. Okay, but when this EC2 instance is going to get stopped or terminated, let us say, okay, even stopping, okay, not only termination. What is termination? Termination is deletion. You are completely deleting your EC2 instance. So let us say, even if you have not terminated that EC2 instance and you have simply stopped that EC2 instance. So even merely stopping the EC2 instance, you are going to lose all the data from the instance. Okay, so that is why they are known as temporary storages, ephemeral storages, or maybe volatile storages. Even those are known as volatile storages. So what is the analogy? Now think of it as a RAM only. Okay, so what happens in the computer's RAM? Okay, so let us say you have opened a file, okay, and suddenly the power goes down or something goes wrong. So whatever there in the RAM will not get stored into your hard disk, right? So RAM is the volatile memory. RAM is a volatile memory of your computer. So similarly, these ephemeral storages are just acting like that volatile memory. So what are the use cases? So the use cases is that you need more buffer memory, or maybe the cache storage, or just for the temporary storage of your application data. So that is what the instance storage are. Now we are not paying anything extra for this instance store. Okay, so it is automatic. And very important, not all instances are going to support this instance store once again. Okay, so not all instance type are going to have the option of instance store. Let us say I have selected the EC2 instance which support instance store. Okay, in that case, I'm not going to pay any extra amount for that instance store, which is not going to happen with the elastic block storages, right? So elastic block storages, which we are going to use, we have to pay for it. Okay, so they are not going to be the free options for you, except the primary storage, that is the root volume. If it is the root volume, then yes, I'm not going to pay anything for that. It is the part of my EC2 instance. Okay, but the data volumes which I'm going to use externally to that EC2 instance, definitely I have to pay for it. Okay, but instance store, you are not paying anything extra for the instance store. It is just coming in the cost of your EC2 instance only. Okay, so this is the I will say visual example of the instance store. Now let us say this is your EC2 instance and it is running, and now this instance store is having some data inside it. Let us say maybe you have stopped it, or maybe it got stopped, something like that. If this instance stop, okay, so all data on the instance is going to get lost. Okay, and that's why these are known as non-persistent. And second important thing, it is not possible to take snapshot of it as well. What are the snapshot? We are going to see later on. Okay, fine. So now, before going for this elastic block storage snapshot, now what I will do, I will give you the demonstration. Now folks, I am in my account. Okay, this is my AWS account, and for today's demonstration I have created some EC2 instances just to save the time. This is my Oregon region, and now what I have done, I have created some EC2 instances here. All these instances, purposely I have selected Windows today. Okay, Windows today. So what I will do, let me just demonstrate it everything. Okay, everything properly. So this is one of my Windows EC2 instance. Okay, and now if I just scroll here, it is been created in availability zone 2A. to a availability zone. What are availability zone? These are the distinct isolated locations in AWS region, and these are meant for high availability of your data. It is always good idea to keep your servers in multiple availability zone. What is the thing? If one availability zone goes down for any reason, maybe you will always have your data in another availability zone. Fine. So that is what we are not going to go in global infrastructure today, but that is just a quick idea. Okay. Now let me just connect to this EC2 instance. Let me just go to the option connect, and I will just use RDP client here. Let me just download the file. Let me connect it. Okay, now it is going to ask me the password. So if I just scroll down, I will get the option get password. Let me just upload the private key. Just a minute, I think I have kept it somewhere. Okay, let us not do that. Let me just create a quick new instance. Okay, I think I have kept it somewhere. Let me start from scratch. Let me launch the Windows instance. Okay, let me give the name. Let us say it is Windows 1. Okay, and now I will go for Windows AMI. This is AMI I'm selecting, and just to save the time, okay, let me select the lighter version of Windows, which is Windows 2016. Okay, let me select this. You can actually select any Windows operating system, no issue, but just is a little bit lighter version. Okay, otherwise Windows take little more time to get created. I will select T3.micro. Now let me create a new key pair. Okay, I will just use RS algorithm, PEM extension. Okay, and let me just give the name. Let us say it is test key. Okay, let me create the key pair. Now the key pair got downloaded in my downloads folder. Fine. Now let me use the default VPC, but what I will do now, I will purposely select the availability zone A here. Okay, availability zone A. I want a public IP address for my instance, and let me select the security group. I will not create the new. I have already created for today's demonstration, but let me tell you what I have done here. So I have opened RDP port 3389, okay, which is required to establish the remote connection with my Windows. Fine. So now if you look at here, see, this is the root volume. Okay, this is the root volume which is going to hold the AMI. Okay, okay. I will talk about this root volume a little bit more. If I just go to advanced, okay, if I go to the advanced and if I just click over here, now you can see this is my root volume. Now folks, what I told you in the theory that these are the persistent storages, right? What I told you that even if the EC2 instance gets terminated, right, nothing will happen to your volume, but that is for data. Okay, and that is the default nature. But now what about the root volume? What about the root volume? The default nature is that if you terminate your EC2 instance, okay, if the EC2 instance is terminated, okay, nothing will happen to the data if you stop it, okay. But if you terminate the EC2 instance, the root volume will also get terminated. I am talking about elastic block storages, not instance store. Okay, this is my elastic block storage, which is the external storage. So if you terminate the EC2 instance, by default root volume will get terminated and nothing will happen to my data volume. But if you wish, even you can persist this root volume. Let me tell you. Okay, now see, this is my root volume, and see, delete on termination is yes. What exactly it means? If I delete the EC2 instance, this volume will also get deleted. Okay, but now you don't want this, right? You want your volume to be persistent. So now you simply select no over here. So now what will happen? even if the EC2 instance got terminated, your volume will persist. Okay, so nothing will happen to your root volume. Okay, even if you terminate your EC2 instance, your root volume will be there. Okay, so this is the option for the root volume. But if it is a data volume, by default it is persistent. I need not select this option no over here. Okay, by default the data volumes will be persistent. Now this is not encrypted by default. Okay, but AWS has given you the option. If you want to go for the server side encryption, you can definitely encrypt this one, right? So now if I want to encrypt it, I can select the option encrypt, and then I will be able to select the specific key as well. I can allow AWS to select the key from their end, which is AWS/EBS. So this EBS service is going to use the key on my behalf to encrypt it. I will not have any access to this key. Okay, if it suits you, go for it. But if you want control on your encryption key as well, then AWS is providing you the KMS option, Key Management Service, where you can create your own encryption. Okay, so this is the option where you can encrypt your elastic block storage volume. But I will not encrypt it. Okay, so let me just use non-encrypted. Okay, fine. And that's all. Now I have selected this. If I okay, so we had selected the default VPC. I have purposely selected availability zone A. I have opted for public IP address. I have selected the security group, which is having port 3389 RDP open. And now the storage, right? So we have just seen the root volume, which is the 30 GB. Okay, and let me even select this option. I don't want to retain that volume, even if the EC2 instance get terminated, right? So I'm just selecting the default option. That's all. Now, if I click launch instance, my instance will get created. Okay, with all instances. Now, if I just simply refresh it, now there are lots of instances. This is the one which I have created. Okay, Windows 1 is the one which I have created. It is still in initializing state and it is created in US West 2A. Now, what I will do, I will quickly launch one more EC2 instance in the same availability zone. Okay, so I want to show you how we can detach the volume from one instance and attach it to another one. So now let me use the Windows 2. Okay, again, I will select the same T3.micro default. Let me use the key pair which we just created. That is the test key, which is in my downloads. Default VPC. And now again, I will select the same availability zone. I will talk about it. Why I am selecting the same availability zone. Okay. So same availability zone in which my Windows 1 is being created. Fine. So again, I will use the same security group again. I just want the RDP port 3389 open. That's all. Okay. And again, the default root volume. See, remember, I have not created any data volume yet. Okay, I'm just focusing on the root volume just now. Okay, that's all. Let me launch the instance and view instances. Now you can see my Windows 1 and Windows 2 both are running. Let me just connect to Windows 1 first. Okay, so let me just click the option Windows, connect. I will use RDP, which is the remote desktop protocol for connecting to Windows machine, RDP client. And let me download it once again. Okay. So if I go to my downloads, I can see that Windows 1. Let me connect. Now it is asking me password. Now for password, I will just click over here, get password. And to create the password, I have to provide the private key, which is been attached to my EC2 instance. Okay, so I will just upload my private key. And as you have noticed, it is in my downloads folder. This is the key. Okay, and now let me decrypt the password. Now the password got created. Let me copy this password and let me okay. Now my Windows is coming up. Now folks, what I will do, I will simply use the Windows utility. Okay. So let me first show you that 30 GB root volume, and then I will create a new volume and I will attach to it. Okay. So for that, what I will do, I will just go to the server manager in Windows. This has nothing to do with AWS basically. I'm just going to the disk management utility in Windows. Okay, just to show you how the storage is managed in Windows. So if I just go to the tools, I will get computer management. Let me go there. And here you will see disk management. Okay, now you can see this is the 30 GB root volume which came up with the EC2 instance. We have not created it, right? It got created directly at the time of launching. Fine. Now what I will do, I will create a data volume. Okay, now how to create that data volume? I will simply go to the storage option here, elastic block storage, and I will go to volume. Now because there are lots of EC2 instances created in my account, so you can see there are lots of root volumes. Okay, so 30 GB means it is a root volume for Windows. Now let me create a volume, data volume. And as we have seen in the theory, general purpose, SSD, GP2, GP3, IO1, IO2, old HDD, that is SC1, and throughput optimized, right? So what we will do, we will just select the default one, general purpose SSD, GP3, and size, let me just select 2 GB. Okay, and this is the default IOPS, 3000 IOPS, input output operations per second, and the throughput is 125 megabits per second. So if you change the volume type, okay, and even you can change which is the maximum limit for that general purpose SSD. Okay, so if you want, you can definitely change it from here. Now I am selecting the availability zone 2A here. Why? The thing is that, now see, this is very important. Now I have already told you that I have created this Windows machine in my 2A availability zone, and it is already having that data volume 30 GB. Now what I'm doing, I'm creating this 2 GB data volume. Sorry, this is root volume. I'm creating this 2 GB data volume now, right? So now if my plan is to attach it to this EC2 instance, it must be created in the same availability zone where my EC2 instance is created. Okay, and now I will select 2. We will not create snapshot directly here. I will show you how to create the snapshot. Now, do you want to encrypt this volume as well? Okay, so I will not encrypt it. And let me just tag it for the time being. Now, let us say tag is name, and let us say it is my 2 GB volume. Okay, and let me create the volume. Now, if I go here, this is the refresh button. Now, if I show you, see, this is the 2 GB volume which we have just created, 2 GB. Now, if I scroll a bit, now you can see this one is only available. All the volumes are showing up in use. Now, what it means? It means that this volume is just created. It is not attached to any instance yet, and that's why it is showing me available. Okay. Now let us attach this volume to our Windows 1 machine. Let us attach it. So very simple. I will simply select that volume. I will go to action. I will select attach volume. And now I will select that Windows 1. Okay, I have to just select Windows 1. This is my Windows 1, right? Now, if you are planning to attach the volume, you have to specify the device name. Okay, and if it is a root volume, okay, it can be /dev/sda1. But for data volume, which we are creating right now, it can be xvd f2p. Okay, so let me just select xvd. Okay, p, let us say. Okay, and attach. If I refresh it now, and if I go here, now see, it is also showing me in use. Initially it was available, but now it is in use. Now what is the difference? The difference is that now it is attached. Let us verify it. Now if I go to my Windows, and now you can see this 2 GB is showing up here. Now just assume that you have purchased a brand new USB hard disk or pen drive, right? So you cannot use it directly. You have to do some formalities, right? You need to format it. You need to make it usable. So that is a first time job, one time job. Okay, you need not do it every time you are removing from one machine and attaching to another machine. Let me quickly show you. So let me just initialize this disk. Okay. Now this is Windows way of making the disk usable. Okay, depending on the operating system, it will differ. Okay, so now it is online, and now let me create a volume. Let me create a simple volume. So now let me use the entire 2 GB for this volume. And I'm good with a D drive letter. As you know, Windows need a drive letter, so D is good for me. And I will just select the NTFS file system and let me just create it. Okay, now you can see this is being created. Okay, so if I simply let us say explore it, let me show you. Now if I go to my this PC, now you can see this D drive here. This is the one which we have just created. Let me just add some data here. Let us quickly create a file, let us say. Okay, now this is done. So what I have done, folks, I have created a volume. I have attached it to my Windows machine. Now I will show you how to attach it to different machine as well as how to take the snapshot. Now what is snapshot? Snapshot is point in time incremental backup. Okay, snapshot is point in time incremental backup. How to take the snapshot? So if I just click this volume and if I go to the action, there is an option create snapshot. Okay, so whatever data is there in my volume right now, it will get copied. It will get backup. Okay, so create snapshot. Let me add a tag. Let us say create snapshot. Now, what do you mean by point in time incremental backup? Let me quickly tell you that. So, folks, what I have done right now, this is the EC2 instance, right? And this is the data volume which I have just created. And there was one file, hello, inside it, right? So now I have taken the snapshot. So in the backup, that hello file has to be there. Remember that data volume is still attached to my EC2 instance. Now let us say I have opened that file, just modified it, or let us say I have created one more file, let us say file 2 over here, and then I have opted for the backup. Then what will happen? Only the changes will get copied. Okay, it is not going to take the backup of the entire volume again and again. It is just going to take the changes since your last backup, and that is what is known as incremental backup. It is a very fast backup, not to mention. Okay, now this is it been mentioned here. Now let us say I have taken snapshot 1 and there are 3 files over there. So in my first snapshot, all these 3 files will get backup. Now there are some changes after my first backup. Let us say I have created 3 more files or something, right? So in that case, the second snapshot will just going to take the newly created data inside it. Let us say this is snap 3. Okay, so I have modified some files or something like that. So in that case, the snapshot will only have that changes. Okay, now the snapshot is being created. Where I'm going to see that snapshot? If I go here, now you can see my snapshot has to be there. Okay, so this is the snap one, which is my backup. Okay, now let me just quickly connect to my second EC2 instance, and I will show you how to attach that volume from one instance and how to attach it to another instance. Okay, so let me go to my instances. Now this time I will establish connection to my Windows 2. Okay, so Windows 2. Let me click the option connect. RDP client, just like the way which we did earlier. Okay, download the file. Let me go to that downloads. This time it is Windows 2. Let me just double click on it and connect. Now password. So for password, again, I will go to the option get password. Okay, and I will use the same key because we have used the same key for the second instance as well. Now this is the key, and now this is my password. Let me copy it and let me paste it here. Now this is my Windows 2 machine. Okay, now what I'm going to show you, I'm going to detach that volume from my first instance and I'm going to attach it to my second instance. Snapshot is different thing. Snapshot is just a backup. Okay, so I have shown you how to take the snapshot, but here I'm just going to detach the volume from one machine and attach it to another. And I will show you that file which I have created in my first EC2 instance has to be there in the second instance as well. Just a 5 minutes and we'll be done. Okay, so again the same thing. I will go to my server manager, tools, computer management, and disk management. Now again, it will just be having that root volume, right? This is my second Windows machine. Now what is the plan? We are going to detach the volume from the first instance. Now see, both of my instances are here. Just hold on. No, this is the Windows one, and you can see this 2 GB volume is attached here. Now I am going to detach it from here and attach to the next one. So what I will do, I will just make it offline for the time being. Okay. Okay. So now once it is offline, I will go to the volumes option. Now this is the 2 GB volume, which is right now attached to my Windows 1. Okay, you can see it is still in use. It is still in use. It is still attached. I will go to the action and I will use the option detach. Okay, detach. It is as good as removing the pen drive, right? Or removing the USB hard disk, something like that. Now, as soon as I have detached it, now the status is showing me available. Let me go there. Okay. Now you can see it is no more there. Okay, it is not there. It is been removed. Let us minimize it. Now let us attach this volume to Windows 2. So it is already selected 2 GB volume. And now I will go to the action, attach volume. And this time, again, it has to be in the same availability zone. Okay, and now I will select Windows 2. Windows 2. Again, what I will do, I will use XVD, F or P, whatever. Let us select XVD. This is the device name and attach. Okay. Now let me go to my second machine. Now you can see it is there. Okay. And now there is no need. We are not going to initialize it. We are not going to, let us say, format it, right? So if I simply open this volume now, I should see that hello file has to be there. Now this is the hello file. Okay, folks. So this is how we create the volumes, elastic block storage volumes in AWS. Okay, we can attach to the instance and we can detach it and attach it to another instance. Fine. So even I have shown you how to create the snapshot. Okay, I have shown you how to create the snapshot. But what if you want to make it automatic? Okay, so you want some automation. What you want, every day, let us say at 9 a.m. in the morning, the first snapshot has to be taken. The second snapshot should be taken at 10 a.m. and then 11, whatever, depending upon your requirement. So are you going to do it manually every time? Okay, so it will not scale, right? So AWS has provided us the life cycle management for snapshot. You can schedule the creation of the snapshot and everything will happen automatically then as per the schedule. Okay, and we have already talked about this encryption. I have talked about that we can encrypt the elastic block storage volume either using our own key or maybe using the AWS EBS managed key. Okay, so you can use your own key or you can use the key provided by AWS as well. And this elastic block storage service in AWS can be integrated with multiple AWS services. Now, in this example, I have just taken the CloudWatch service only. Now, let us say I want to check what is the available space in my elastic block storage volume, right? So I can definitely use the CloudWatch service, which is the resource monitoring service, and it is going to give me alerts. Let us say if I'm just running or going to run out of the storage capacity or something like that. Okay, so we can have lots of services which can be integrated with AWS. Okay, now just before that, let me show you when I'm saying that it is the elastic. Every time I'm using the word elastic storage, elastic storage. So what exactly this elastic storage is? It means now if I go to the modify volume option, right? So if you remember, I have just selected 2 GB at that time, right? But now this is elastic. If I wish to make it, let us say 20 GB or 200 GB, whatever, I can definitely do that. Okay, folks. So that was my elastic block storage volume. Now, if you are having any question, please let me go to the any question. Ankita, are you there? Can you please read the questions for me if it is there?
Yeah, I don't see any questions for now. I will just give for 1 minute window. So if anyone has questions, they can type in now, and so we can answer them. If we don't get any questions, then we will move on. Thank you so much, Ms. Seema, for such an insightful and engaging session. I think everything that you have taught is pretty much clear to everyone. That's why we did not get any questions so far. Your explanations and examples made the topic feel clear, approachable, and incredibly relevant. I'm sure everyone attending today is walking away with a much stronger understanding of how to make the right storage choices in AWS and how to get most out of EBS and Instance Store. Now, for those who would like to continue learning to or explore more AWS topics in depth, I would encourage you to take a look at our virtual instructor-led training programs on springpeople.com. These sessions are flexible, interactive, and can be joined from anywhere. And if you don't see a batch that fits your schedule, we are always happy to arrange a private session as well. We also offer self-paced courses if you prefer learning at your own time and convenience. If you need any help or details, feel free to reach out to us at training@springpeople.com or call the number displayed on your screen. Now, before leaving, I will request all to share your review so that we can improve our further sessions as well. And with that, thank you and goodbye.